What annoys me, Nikesh, about this situation a little bit is the politicians sort of steaming in there initially and saying, right, it's up to the ECB to boycott this game, to not play Afghanistan. I know Keir Starmer, I think he might have recognised this and then jumped in and actually kind of put it more on the ICC. But is it really up to the ECB? Should it not be? If the government don't believe that England should be playing this game, well, why don't they step in and make it a decision on it, take it out of the ECB's hands? But probably more importantly, it's the ICC, isn't it, who should be dealing with this, not the ECB.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's two sides to this. There's obviously the old argument that sport and politics and certainly politicians shouldn't mix. But then there are global issues which sometimes have to be taken into account. Look, even the ECB has said that it is up to the ICC. We have to abide by whatever the ICC's regulations and views are at any particular time in terms of who we play. And at this moment in time, the ICC has deemed that Afghanistan men's cricket team are eligible to continue playing at the top level. They've, played in the last couple of ICC tournaments, have done really well as well. And look, they're one of the top 8 sides in the world, so they qualify for the Champions Trophy. And as a result, England are going to have to play them. If they don't, they will have to forfeit. I mean, it is a very similar situation to what happened in 2003, because at the same time, it was the government who put pressure on the ECB. The ECB at that time left it up to the players. So they did kind of cave in, as you say. That's not going to happen this time around. I don't think the players will have any real say in it. Maybe individually, if there are any individuals who've got particular issues with Afghanistan and the Taliban and, want to take that stand against what they're doing to women's rights and women's sport within the country, then, nobody's going to probably stop them and hold that against them from the ECB. But I don't think it will be a bunch of players led by the captain getting together in a room and deciding whether or not to pull out of the match. That's not going to happen this time around. I can't see that. But look, the point that Azeem makes is a great one as well, about Cricket Australia in particular, who've been very vocal about not playing Afghanistan in bilateral cricket, England the same. But then when it comes to tournaments like this, they want to try and get the 2 points for the win. So they will play Afghanistan. It's a bit of hypocrisy, really, if you think about it, because if you believe in something so strongly, then you should carry that through. You shouldn't have different caveats based on when you're playing them and how you're playing them. And probably the same goes with India, if you're being honest, because they don't want to play Pakistan in bilateral cricket. I think Pakistan have come to the realization that it would make sense if they could play India, on a regular basis, or, whether that be in limited overs cricket or test cricket, which would be the ultimate dream for a lot of fans. But India and their government refuses to play Pakistan in bilateral cricket. But in ICC tournaments, the BCCI and everybody around cricket realizes that without India-Pakistan, TV rights won't sell for nearly as much. So both sides tend to play each other. And again, that's hypocrisy. And it's the same thing here. So look, if you're gonna say one thing and do another, then what's the point? They might as well play each other in bilateral cricket. And from an Afghanistan point of view, look, this is what it comes down to. The Afghan men's cricket team is one of the few areas of joy for the people of Afghanistan, particularly in recent times when they've done well in the last T20 World Cup. In the previous ODI World Cup in India, they did fabulously well. Quite unlucky, really, not to make it through to the semi-finals. If they weren't Glenn Maxwell, then they may well have made it through to the final 4, and who knows after that. So they're really on the up. And, I spoke to an Afghan cricket journalist yesterday, actually, who spends a lot of time in Afghanistan, commentates on their matches as well. And he sort of just echoed that, really, that the mood is terrible in the country over the last 18 months or so. But when the Afghan men's cricket team play, the whole country just finds that sense of relief, just something else to focus on for a little while, for a couple of weeks while a tournament's going on, a little bit of joy for all these families that have been so badly affected by the regime over there in recent times. And look, the Afghan men's team have, some of them, the high profile players have spoken out against the Taliban, not to the extent that perhaps a lot of people would like. But again, they are Afghan citizens. They have to be a little bit careful about the repercussions and things. But they have spoken out about women's rights and the women's cricket team in the past. I think the cricketers from the men's side have done as much as they can in terms of speaking out. So it's not as if they're just ignoring everything that's going on as well and just playing in these tournaments and playing in these international series. They are aware of the situation, but they are one of the few areas of joy for the Afghan people at the moment.
Yeah, just to follow on from that a little bit, and on a separate, around sort of rights and women's rights, we had an Olympics in Paris where, Muslim women couldn't wear a hijab. And I didn't see any calls for boycotts. That is literally ripping away someone's human rights as well. So I think we just need to be a bit careful as, in terms of, it seems in some ways that some parts we do care about human rights, some parts we don't. So yeah, I think we need to be a bit careful of that. Sometimes we can be very sort of, telling other people to behave and do in a certain way. Like I said, this podcast or last few years, at times you could say, if we're going to go down the boycott route, that someone should have boycotted the ECB or England games, but that's not going to happen, is it? Right? Because of commercials and all of the other stuff. So yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance to this conversation.